Artifact ID voice, over, script type text, markdown title. She jumped into the river for a stranger 12 hours. Later, the current returned something precious command rewrite. Dawn breaks over the city river. Soft light dances across rippling water as early joggers pass by. On the bridge stands Sarah Miller, 32, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Her blonde hair pulled tight into a bun, phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp as a blade. The real estate CEO argues fiercely about contract terms, her cold eyes scanning the water below without really seeing it. 50 yards away, Michael Davis sweeps fallen leaves in his faded park maintenance uniform. At 45, his weathered face tells stories his quiet demeanor never would. He notices a small girl playing dangerously close to the railing. No adults in sight. Michael sets his broom aside, walking toward her with gentle purpose. Suddenly, a scream pierces the morning calm. The girl slips, tumbles, and disappears over the edge. Water splashes violently below. Without hesitation, Michael throws his old phone aside and leaps into the frigid current. Sarah freezes mid-sentence, witnessing everything. For one breathtaking moment, time stands still. Michael Davis had always been invisible to people like Sarah Miller. A former military rescue swimmer now reduced to picking up trash in the park for minimum wage. His small rented apartment in the Riverside projects barely fits a bed and table, but it's home for him and 15-year-old Lisa. 5 years ago, his wife died in a car accident, leaving him a single father with nothing but determination and love. Every morning before work, he runs along the riverbank, picking up litter that isn't his responsibility. He helps homeless veterans find shelter and resources, though he's only 2 missed paychecks away from joining their ranks himself. His colleagues mockingly call him the sweeper behind his back. His supervisor constantly threatens termination for minor infractions. Michael accepts it all with a quiet dignity, responding to contempt with unwavering kindness. Each evening, he helps Lisa with homework and tells her stories about courage and doing what's right even when no one's watching. Character is what you do in the dark, he often says, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Lisa pretends to roll her eyes, but she treasures every word. At school, classmates tease her about her secondhand clothes and her father's menial job. She never tells him about the tears she sheds in private. Michael's apartment walls are lined with faded photographs from his military days. Medal citations stored in a shoebox under his bed. Achievements he never mentions, even when coworkers belittle his capabilities. His bathroom mirror holds a single note. Today, be the person your daughter believes you are. Each morning, he touches it like a talisman before heading out. The building he lives in has seen better days. Water stains mark the ceilings. Pipes groan in protest. And the elevator has been broken for months. But the residents form a tight-knit community, sharing meals and childcare, watching out for each other's children. Michael knows every neighbor by name, fixes their leaky faucets, carries groceries for the elderly. Small kindnesses that go unnoticed by the world but mean everything to those who receive them. Sarah Miller built herself from nothing. Abandoned by her father, raised by a mother working 3 jobs, she swore poverty would never touch her again. Through ruthless ambition, she constructed a real estate empire, earning the nickname Ice Queen. Employees fear her, partners respect her cutthroat instincts. Her downtown penthouse gleams with minimal luxury, her calendar filled with power lunches and dates with finance executives that never lead anywhere meaningful. Each night, she stares at the city lights, successful by every measure yet hollow inside. The only photograph in her home shows her mother, now deceased, in front of the small apartment they once shared. Sarah hasn't cried since the funeral 3 years ago. Her office sits 30 floors above the city, glass walls offering panoramic views of the river where Michael works. From that height, people look like ants, problems become abstractions, and the struggling neighborhoods appear as mere obstacles to progress. Her assistant enters her office on tiptoe, leaving coffee and withdrawing without a word. Sarah's reputation for firing people on a whim has created a culture of fear. No one challenges her decisions, even when they sense something isn't right. The company's environmental compliance reports sit in a neat stack on her desk, signed without reading. Trust has been delegated, attention focused solely on the bottom line. What Sarah doesn't know can't trouble her conscience. Her latest project, a riverside luxury complex requiring the demolition of low-income housing, including Michael's building. Sarah doesn't see the families who will be displaced. She sees profit margins and shareholder value. The struggling neighborhood represents nothing but untapped waterfront potential. When residents protested at a community meeting, Sarah had security remove them, never bothering to learn their names or stories. Michael had been there, silent in the back row, memorizing every dismissive gesture, every cold calculation. He recognized Sarah from her morning jogs along his cleaning route. She'd passed him hundreds of times, never once making eye contact. The little girl now thrashing in the water is Emma Wilson, 8 years old, daughter of an elderly flower seller who works near the bridge. Emma has mild autism and rarely speaks, often wandering alone while her grandmother tends her small flower cart. Today, Mrs. Wilson fell ill, and Emma ventured out by herself, drawn to the sparkling water. Now, the current pulls her downstream, her small arms flailing against forces too powerful to fight. Her favorite stuffed rabbit, clutched tightly until the moment she fell, floats a few feet away, just beyond her desperate reach. Michael's body hits the water with military precision, cutting through the surface with barely a splash. The shock of cold steals his breath, but muscle memory takes over. Powerful strokes carry him toward Emma as the current strengthens. Sarah stands frozen on the bridge, her important call forgotten. For the first time in years, something matters more than business. She dials emergency services, then kicks off her expensive heels and runs along the shore, tracking Michael's progress through the churning water. Her perfect hair comes undone, mascara streaks her cheeks. Designer suit becoming disheveled as she scrambles over rocks and through bushes to keep pace with the river's flow. The water is colder than Michael expected, the current stronger. Old shoulder injuries flare with pain as he pushes against the flow. Memories flash of other rescues, other desperate moments when seconds determined survival. He focuses on Emma's bright yellow dress, a splash of color against the murky water. Other pedestrians gather along the shore, recording with phones instead of helping. Only Sarah moves with purpose, paralleling Michael's path downstream. She shouts encouragement, her voice carrying across the water. "You can do this. Keep going." Words she's never spoken to anyone without expecting something in return. Michael reaches Emma, wrapping a strong arm around her tiny frame. "I've got you," he whispers, though the roaring water drowns his words. He tries swimming toward the bank, but the current fights him, pulling them both further downstream. With every ounce of strength, he keeps Emma's head above water, his own dipping below with increasing frequency. From the shore, Sarah spots a low-hanging tree branch. "The tree," she shouts, her voice carrying across the water. "Grab the branch." Her corporate boardroom command voice now serves a purpose more vital than quarterly earnings. With his final surge of energy, Michael pushes Emma toward the branch that Sarah indicates. The girl's fingers claw desperately at the rough bark. Sarah wades into the shallows, stretching dangerously far to grasp Emma's hand. She pulls the soaking child to safety just as Michael loses his grip on the branch. His exhausted body surrenders to the river's pull. The last thing Sarah sees is his eyes meeting hers before he disappears beneath the surface. Not fear in those eyes, but acceptance, perhaps even peace, the look of a man who knows his final act, aligned perfectly with his values. Save him. Emma screams, her first words in months piercing the air. Sarah stares at the spot where Michael vanished, something breaking loose inside her. Police and rescue teams arrive, searching frantically for the missing man. Paramedics wrap Emma in thermal blankets as Sarah insists on accompanying her to the hospital. There, among the chaos of the emergency room, Sarah encounters a teenage girl with Michael's determined eyes, frantically asking about her father. Lisa Davis wears worn jeans and a faded sweatshirt, her backpack covered in carefully hand-drawn designs to hide the fraying fabric. Recognition dawns slowly on her face as she identifies the soaked, mud-splattered woman as the developer threatening their home. The emergency room buzzes with activity. Emma's grandmother arrives, her weathered hands trembling as she clutches her granddaughter. "She spoke," Sarah tells the old woman. "She called for help." "Mrs. Wilson weeps silently, stroking Emma's wet hair. "Michael always bought flowers from me," she says softly. Even when he had little to spare. He would sit with Emma when she had bad days, never rushing, never judging. Sarah absorbs this information like physical blows. The invisible man had connections, impact, a life rich with meaning she never bothered to see. News of the rescue spreads quickly across local media. Divers recover Michael's wallet, containing a worn photograph of Lisa and a handwritten note. "Sweetheart, always do what's right, even when no one is looking." Sarah studies the ID card, recognition dawning. Michael Davis, the same name on the tenant list for the Riverside project she plans to demolish. The invisible man who cleans her jogging route each morning. The silent protester from the back row. The hero who now might be dead because of a selfless act that no one expected from someone society deemed worthless. Night falls with no sign of Michael. The police captain approaches Sarah, who hasn't left the Riverside Command Center. "We're scaling back the search," he says gently. At this point, his words trail off, the implication clear. Sarah stares at the dark water, remembering Michael's eyes before he disappeared. Something shifts inside her, a tectonic realignment of priorities. "I'm not giving up," she declares, pulling out her phone. Within an hour, her assistant arrives with dry clothes, her corporate credit card, and a confused expression. "Cancel all my meetings for the week," Sarah instructs. "And get me the best rescue team money can buy." Sarah makes a decision that surprises even herself. She postpones the development project indefinitely and hires a private rescue team with helicopters, speedboats, and professional divers. "Money is no object," she tells them, her voice leaving no room for argument. Lisa follows Sarah everywhere, red-rimmed eyes, refusing to shed tears, bearing the same quiet strength as her father. "He's alive," Lisa insists. "Dad's the strongest swimmer I know. He survived worse in the military." The teenager's unwavering faith both inspires and terrifies Sarah, who understands probability and statistics all too well. But looking at Lisa, this child on the verge of becoming an orphan, Sarah finds herself praying to a God she stopped believing in years ago. Through Lisa and Michael's co-workers, Sarah learns more about the man she never noticed before. A decorated rescue swimmer who saved dozens during a catastrophic flood 10 years ago. After his discharge, he chose a simple life, never mentioning his past achievements. His swimming abilities were exceptional. If anyone could survive the river's pull, it would be Michael. Sarah discovers the river feeds into a network of underground caves and small islands miles downstream, areas the initial search overlooked. She pilots her own boat to these remote locations, climbing rocks and wading through mud, her designer clothes forgotten. Sarah's assistant watches in bewilderment as his always immaculate boss returns covered in river mud, her manicured nails broken, designer clothes ruined. "What's happening to you?" he asks when she cancels a crucial investor meeting to join another search party. Sarah pauses, considering. "I'm remembering something important," she finally says. "What it means to be human." The assistant studies her face, noting the absence of her usual mask of cold efficiency. For the first time, he sees the person behind the position, vulnerable, determined, alive with purpose beyond profit. Meanwhile, Sarah uncovers a devastating secret. Her company has been illegally dumping toxic waste into the river for years. Her environmental compliance officer, her trusted right hand, has been accepting bribes and falsifying reports. Residents in Michael's neighborhood have been experiencing mysterious illnesses, including Emma's grandmother. The new development would have paved over evidence and silenced complaints permanently. Sarah faces a moral reckoning. Her success built on poison that's slowly killing an entire community. In her office late at night, she pores over environmental reports, financial records, email trails that implicate not just her employees but her own willful ignorance. The truth burns through her carefully constructed worldview like acid. The revelation comes during a late-night review of company files. A pattern of mysterious budget allocations, coded as specialized waste management. Emails with veiled language about alternative disposal solutions. Sarah traces the paper trail, each discovery another nail in the coffin of her former self-image. Her company, her life's work, built on poisoning the most vulnerable. The luxury homes she sells promise health and happiness, while stealing both from people like Michael and Emma. The irony cuts deep. The man she never noticed was gathering evidence that could destroy her, yet saved a child without hesitation. What kind of person does that make her? 12 hours into the search, hope dwindles. The rescue team wants to declare it a recovery mission rather than a rescue. But Sarah refuses to give up. In Michael's apartment, she finds journals documenting river pollution and community health issues. He'd been gathering evidence for months, photographing illegal discharge pipes, collecting water samples, tracking illness patterns. Michael knew about the toxic dumping and was building a case against her company. Sarah realizes with stunning clarity that she's not just searching for a hero. She's searching for the man who could destroy everything she's built. Lisa shows Sarah around their small apartment. Certificates of Michael's military service hang beside Lisa's school awards. The refrigerator displays crayon drawings from Emma, thank you notes from neighbors. A small table holds Michael's environmental evidence. Water samples labeled by date and location. A map marked with suspected contamination points. A notebook filled with meticulous observations of wildlife decline. Dad says the river is sick, Lisa explains. He's been tracking it for almost a year now. Sarah touches the samples, remembering the falsified environmental impact statements on her desk, signed without reading. The weight of complicity settles heavy on her shoulders. Night falls, bringing heavy rain. The rescue teams retreat, but Sarah continues alone, driving her boat through increasingly dangerous waters. She discovers a waterproof bag washed ashore, containing a camera with damning photos of her company's secret discharge pipes. Michael had documented everything, including timestamps and GPS coordinates. The evidence is irrefutable. Just as Sarah processes this revelation, she receives a call from a local fisherman who spotted flashlight signals from a small island 5 miles downstream. Hope flares like a match in darkness. The storm intensifies, turning the river into a churning monster. Lightning illuminates the landscape in stark flashes, as Sarah pilots the small boat toward coordinates the fisherman provided. Lisa sits beside her, soaked but determined. "You should have stayed behind," Sarah shouts over the storm. Lisa's response is simple: "He wouldn't leave us." The boat bucks against massive waves, nearly capsizing twice. Sarah's hands blister on the controls, but she presses forward, understanding for the first time what it means to value something above personal safety, above comfort, above self-interest. Sarah immediately sets course, despite the dangerous storm. Lisa insists on coming along, her face set with determination. Their small boat battles massive waves, as lightning splits the sky. They're risking everything on a slim chance. When they reach the island, they find Michael severely injured but alive, having clung to a floating log that carried him to this temporary sanctuary. He stares in disbelief at Sarah Miller standing before him in mud-caked designer clothes, soaked to the skin. His leg is badly broken, makeshift splint fashioned from driftwood and torn clothing. Hypothermia has set in, his lips blue, body shivering uncontrollably. Yet his first words are, "Is Emma safe?" "Why?" he asks weakly, voice barely audible above the storm. "Why would someone like you search for someone like me?" Sarah kneels beside him, rain mingling with unexpected tears. "Because I owe Emma," she answers. "And because I needed to know the truth." Michael reveals he discovered the discharge pipe while diving for a toy Emma had dropped months ago. He'd been documenting evidence, preparing to expose Sarah's company. "They're killing the river," he whispers. "They're killing my neighborhood." His eyes hold no accusation, only a bone-deep weariness. He'd fought this battle alone for so long, never expecting to be heard, especially not by someone like Sarah. Lisa embraces her father, sobbing with relief. Sarah wraps Michael in emergency blankets, administers first aid from the boat's kit. The small island offers minimal shelter, just enough to protect them from the worst of the rain. As they prepare to transport Michael to the boat, Sarah confesses everything: her knowledge of the toxic dumping, her complicity through neglect, her plan to bulldoze their home. "I never looked," she admits. "I never wanted to see." Michael studies her face in the flashlight's glow. "But you're looking now," he says simply. That's how change begins. As they prepare to leave the island, Sarah's former right-hand man appears in another boat, having tracked them through the storm. He's determined to eliminate both the evidence and the witnesses. A dangerous chase ensues through storm-tossed waters. Michael, despite his injuries, protects Sarah and Lisa using his military training. Sarah navigates treacherous river passages while their pursuer gains ground. The company man's boat crashes into submerged rocks, but their vessel also sustains heavy damage and begins taking on water. James Reynolds, Sarah's environmental compliance officer, shouts above the storm, "You have no idea what you're doing, Sarah. This evidence disappears, or we all go down." His boat maneuvers alongside theirs, engine more powerful, hull more stable. He reaches for Michael's waterproof bag containing the evidence. Sarah accelerates suddenly, forcing Reynolds back. "I know exactly what I'm doing," she calls back. For the first time, the corporate ruthlessness she perfected in boardrooms now serves a different purpose as she navigates through narrow channels. Reynolds' larger boat can't follow. The chase continues through rainfall so heavy it feels like driving underwater. Reynolds takes a different route, cutting them off at a river bend. His boat rams theirs, sending Lisa tumbling against the side. Michael, despite his injuries, positions himself protectively before his daughter. "This isn't you, Sarah," Reynolds shouts. "Think about everything you've built." Sarah meets his gaze across the churning water. "I'm thinking about everything we've destroyed," she answers, gunning the engine toward a narrow passage between partially submerged rocks. With the boat sinking fast, Michael uses his remaining strength to push Sarah and Lisa onto a rock outcropping. Before Sarah can grab his hand, the current tears him away once more. She watches in anguish as he disappears into the darkness, his sacrifice for strangers now complete. Clinging to the rocks with Lisa through the night, Sarah makes a silent promise that if Michael is gone, his legacy will live on through justice. Reynolds' boat crashes violently into the rocks nearby, his screams cut short by the roaring water. By morning, there's no sign of either man. Dawn breaks with merciful clarity. The storm has passed, leaving a washed clean sky and calmer waters. Sarah and Lisa remain huddled on the rocks, exhausted and grief-stricken. Rescue helicopters appear on the horizon, summoned by the emergency beacon Sarah activated before the chase began. As they're airlifted to safety, Lisa clutches her father's waterproof bag of evidence. Her face, so like Michael's, shows the same quiet determination. "He saved us twice," she tells Sarah. "First Emma, then us. The world needs to know who he was." Sarah takes the girl's hand, cold fingers interlocking. "They will," she promises. "I'll make sure of it." Rescue teams find Sarah and Lisa at dawn. No sign of Michael. Sarah returns to the city, and immediately goes public with everything. The toxic dumping, Michael's evidence, and the heroism of a park maintenance worker, everyone overlooked. The revelations shock the city. Sarah's company stock plummets. The board demands her resignation. Instead of hiding behind lawyers, Sarah accepts full responsibility. She liquidates her personal assets to compensate affected residents, establishes a treatment fund for children suffering pollution-related illnesses, and brings criminal charges against those responsible, including herself. Sarah stands before news cameras, Michael's evidence displayed behind her. Her expensive suit replaced by simple business attire, hair pulled back naturally, face bare of makeup. "For years, I profited from poisoning the most vulnerable among us," she states clearly. "I didn't ask questions I should have asked. I didn't see people I should have seen. One man had the courage to gather the truth while I hid from it. Before he was lost saving others, Michael Davis compiled irrefutable evidence of criminal negligence." Her voice cracks slightly. "He gave everything to protect his community. The least we can do is listen to him now. The consequences come swiftly. Environmental protection agencies descend on the company. Class action lawsuits mount. Sarah's personal fortune diminishes as she establishes treatment funds, relocation assistance, and river restoration projects. Former business associates avoid her. Social invitations disappear. For the first time, she experiences the invisibility Michael lived with daily. Yet somehow, she feels more seen than ever before. By Lisa, by Emma and her grandmother, by the community fighting for justice. The penthouse sells, most possessions liquidated. Sarah moves into a modest apartment near Michael's neighborhood, learning what it means to live with less and care more. Lisa comes to live in Sarah's penthouse, the teenager silent and withdrawn, still hoping for her father's return. Sarah promises never to stop searching. Each morning, she runs along the river, picking up trash just as Michael once did. Employees from her former company volunteer for weekly river cleanups. The toxic discharge site undergoes emergency remediation. Emma starts speaking more, often visiting the golden-haired lady who reads her stories about brave swimmers and magical rivers that heal. Lisa adjusts slowly to life with Sarah. Initially suspicious, walls built high, she gradually recognizes the genuine transformation in the woman her father's sacrifice changed forever. They establish routines, homework at the kitchen table, weekend visits to the ongoing river search sites, Sunday dinners with Emma and her grandmother. Sarah learns to cook simple meals, to shop on a budget, to value conversation over acquisition. Lisa teaches her about her father, his favorite songs, his terrible jokes, his unwavering belief that small acts of kindness matter. Together, they water the plants Michael rescued from dumpsters, nurturing life he valued. The river search continues, despite dwindling official support. Sarah funds it personally, even as her resources diminish. Lisa never gives up hope, checking search reports each morning before school. Emma draws pictures of Michael as a superhero. His maintenance uniform transformed into a flowing cape. The neighborhood Michael fought to protect rallies around his cause. Holding community meetings in the park where he once worked. Environmental activists adopt his evidence-gathering methodology, creating Michael Davis water watch programs across the state. His invisibility transformed into enduring legacy, his name becoming synonymous with environmental justice. A month after the tragedy, at a memorial service for Michael, a miracle unfolds. Fishermen have found a man washed up on a beach 50 miles downriver, injured, suffering from temporary amnesia, but alive. Michael had been rescued by coastal villagers who tended his wounds. When he saw news coverage about himself on television, memories slowly returned. Michael comes home to Lisa's tearful embrace, and a community's collective joy. His body bears the scars of his ordeal, a leg that will always limp, hypothermia damage requiring ongoing treatment, nightmares that wake him shouting. But his spirit remains unbroken, his eyes still kind despite all they've witnessed. The reunion happens at the Riverside Park where Michael once worked. Hundreds gather, neighbors, former colleagues, city officials, journalists. Emma breaks free from her grandmother's hand, running full speed toward Michael with uncharacteristic abandon. "My hero," she shouts, words flowing easily now. Michael kneels despite his injuries, embracing the little girl whose life he saved. Lisa stands trembling until her father opens his other arm, creating space for her in the circle. The crowd cheers, but Michael seems almost embarrassed by the attention, the same humble man who never sought recognition. Sarah stands apart from the celebration, tears streaming down her once cold face. When Michael approaches her, she simply says, "I'm sorry, for everything." Michael studies her for a long moment, then responds quietly. Sometimes the river takes, but it also returns what's precious. He extends his hand, not in forgiveness exactly, but in recognition of a shared journey toward redemption. Their fingers meet, a bridge forming between worlds that once seemed impossibly distant. The touch is brief but profound, acknowledging all that's been lost and found in the river's unforgiving current. Recovery comes slowly for everyone. Michael undergoes physical therapy, regaining strength in his damaged leg. Sarah navigates legal consequences, accepting a suspended sentence for her role in the environmental crimes. The community begins healing, as remediation efforts, clean the river, and medical treatments address years of toxic exposure. Emma speaks more each day, her autism still present, but no longer isolating her from connection. Lisa excels in school, her application essay about her father earning her college scholarships. And Sarah learns to measure wealth differently, in relationships restored, in wrongs made right, in purpose reclaimed from the wreckage of blind ambition. 1 year later, the Riverside Development Project is completed, but with an entirely different design: affordable housing for local residents, an ecological park, and an environmental research center named after Michael. Sarah no longer runs a corporation. Instead, she directs a river conservation foundation, frequently speaking at schools about corporate responsibility. Emma talks freely now, often visiting her hero friend and her golden fairy. Michael still works as a park ranger, but now commands respect from everyone he meets. Lisa has earned an environmental science scholarship, determined to protect other communities from corporate negligence. The new housing complex preserves the community Michael fought to protect, upgraded with sustainable materials and green spaces. Residents gather in the central courtyard for weekly potluck dinners where Michael still tells terrible jokes and Sarah still overcooks pasta. Emma helps her grandmother tend the community garden, speaking freely with neighbors who no longer see her differences as barriers. Lisa conducts citizen science workshops at the Environmental Center, teaching children to become stewards of the river that nearly claimed her father. And Sarah works alongside former adversaries, her business acumen now directed toward healing rather than profit. Her office walls display children's drawings rather than stock certificates, her calendar filled with community meetings instead of shareholder calls. Each morning, Michael and Sarah jog along the riverbank, sometimes pausing on the bridge where everything began. The river gave back more than it took from me, Sarah admits, watching the sunrise reflect on water that grows cleaner each day. Not just you, but my conscience, my purpose, a new family. Michael nods, understanding the current that brought them together runs deeper than the river itself. Some treasures, he says quietly, only reveal themselves after the storm. Their relationship defies easy definition, not quite friendship, not quite romance, but something equally valuable, two souls who witnessed each other's darkest moments and chose to remain. They stand together in comfortable silence, watching Emma feed ducks below, her grandmother selling flowers nearby. In the distance, construction crews complete the community center where Michael will teach swimming lessons to neighborhood children. Not all wounds have healed, but like the river, they continue flowing forward, carrying new possibilities with each dawn. Sometimes the most precious things returned by the current aren't things at all, but second chances, for a river, a community, and two people who found each other across the divide of two different worlds. The city skyline stands unchanged, towering glass and steel reflecting morning light. But beneath that gleaming surface, invisible currents have shifted. In boardrooms across town, executives review environmental compliance with newfound scrutiny. In neighborhoods once forgotten, residents monitor water quality with testing kits from Michael's center. In schools, children learn about the park maintenance worker who became an unlikely hero. And on the bridge, where it all began, a small plaque reads simply, "Courage is the choice to see clearly and act anyway." Sarah's former penthouse now houses a nonprofit incubator, supporting grassroots environmental justice initiatives. Her designer clothes have been replaced by practical outfits suited for fieldwork and community meetings. The Ice Queen nickname faded into memory, replaced by genuine respect from people whose names she now knows. Michael's maintenance uniform hangs in a museum exhibition about everyday heroes, alongside his military medals finally displayed with pride. Lisa wears his watch, the one that stopped when he hit the water, now repaired and keeping perfect time. Emma carries a new stuffed rabbit, identical to the one lost in the river, a gift from Sarah on her 9th birthday. The river flows on, as rivers do, indifferent to the human dramas played out along its banks. But the people have changed, transformed by currents more powerful than water. Currents of courage, accountability, and unexpected connection. Visible from the bridge where Sarah now stands each morning is a simple bench dedicated to second chances. On quiet days, when the light hits the water just right, she sometimes sits there alone, watching the endless flow that took nearly everything before returning what mattered most. Not all who wander into deep waters are lost forever. Sometimes, if we're lucky, the current brings them home. Artifact. I've expanded the script to approximately 6,200 words as requested. The voiceover now includes more detailed characterization, emotional depth, and environmental descriptions, while maintaining the dramatic arc of your original outline. The expanded version provides 1. More detailed backstory for both Michael and Sarah. 2. Enhanced environmental descriptions of the river and community. 3. Deeper exploration of the emotional journey and transformation. 4. Additional details about the corporate conspiracy and environmental issues. 5. More vivid descriptions of the rescue attempts and dangers. 6. A more developed resolution showing the community's healing. The story maintains the 6-part structure you outlined while providing the additional word count requested. The tone remains inspirational and emotionally resonant, focusing on themes of redemption, recognition, and the power of everyday heroism. Is there any specific section you'd like me to further develop or any aspect of the story you'd like me to adjust?